Josh.
I'm Scott.
And for our presentation, we are choosing topic number 5, which revolves around Michael Jordan receiving a base annual salary of around $30 to $35 million per year. And this is just including his NBA contract. So more specifically, we're going to be focusing on the 1997-98 season, where Michael Jordan signed his $33.1 million contract at the age of 34, coming off back-to-back championships with the Chicago Bulls. In 1991 to 93, he three-peated with Chicago. He won Finals MVP in all 5 of those finals for Chicago. The contract was only for 1 season. A lot of speculation if he deserved it or he didn't. Your thoughts on that, Scott?
The man's the GOAT. You know, we'll get that out of the way right now. He was the best player of his generation, maybe the best player to ever play the game.
Yeah.
So if anyone in the industry, if anyone in pro sport was worth it at the time, it was Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And he really was the face of the franchise, the face of the league, the face of the sport at the time.
Yeah.
So it is an unfathomable amount of money, especially in pro sport at the time. In the 80s and 90s, they saw exceptional growth, but there really was no precedent for a contract like Jordan's. $33 million. Certainly, with the success that the Bulls saw, people could see the value in it, or the validity in paying a man like that such a extreme amount of money.
Yeah, of course. And like for 1 season also, right? Like players during that time in the NBA weren't getting contracts this big, right?
No.
But then again, not everybody was playing at the same caliber of Michael Jordan, right?
No,
As you said.
not anyone.
So like around that time, like there were other players making huge contracts, huge amounts of money during that time. Patrick Ewing, who was the second best or second highest paid player on that list for that same season, the 97-98 season, was actually making $20.5 million.
20.5, right.
So you go from 33.1, right, to the highest, to 20.5.
Right.
Huge jump.
Yeah, it kind of shows you
Patrick
the difference
Ewing,
between.
and Patrick Ewing is no scrub player either. He was a pretty dominant player during his time, but it just shows the caliber of this contract.
Yeah. The kind of next level
It
was
was
on.
massive, right?
Yeah.
Then you had Horace Grant in 3rd with 14.2.
So another big jump.
Another big jump, right, from 20 to 14 down. And then you have Shaq in 4th. This is a young Shaq, or not too young, in his early years in LA, where he was earning 12.8. So it goes to show, huge jump, a lot of controversy surrounding the contract, right?
Certainly.
Does he deserve it? Does he not? I personally agree with you. Absolutely 100%. He deserves it. You're paying the GOAT, greatest player, arguably, to play.
Yeah.
Right? So, and like, just the accolades he was doing, right? 5-0 in the finals at this time.
Right.
Right? Endless accolades. 5 finals MVPs. Right? That year, he'd actually go on to win a 3rd championship in a row, 3-peat again with the Bulls. And at the time, the league structure was very different compared to what the NBA is today, right? So salary cap during that time was, I believe, 26.6 million.
Right.
And
so that part has always caused me a little bit of confusion.
Yeah.
I know the way a lot of sports work, they operate with that sort of soft cap, I think they call it. And so I see him making more than the total combined, like, allotted payroll for them. He's making more than their salary cap. How exactly does that work? What sort of ramifications are there for that?
Yeah, well, right here on Business Insider, I was reading an article and actually said at the time, the salary cap for that year, 26.6 million. The average NBA team payroll was 32.7 million. Right, but the thing about that was, and to answer your question, there was no maximum salary rule.
There's no hard salary.
There's no hard salary.
No hard
so
cap.
Owners were able to pay their player, if they really want to keep him, as much money as they want in order for the player to sign, right? So that's why Jordan was able to get his 33.1 million for that year. Whereas,
and in the case of Jordan, sorry,
go
you.
ahead.
You were talking about how there was more than just, is he going to play or is he not going to play?
Yeah.
There was talk of him walking to a different team.
Yes, there was. He was actually, because during that time, you have to think, he can get as much money as he can because he's a generational type player.
Yeah.
New York Knicks were actually, or there was rumors of him going to New York if Chicago wasn't willing to pay him that contract.
Right.
Because, well, who wouldn't pay him that contract? If
Yeah.
they're not going to pay Michael Jordan that contract,
Then
other
we
teams
will.
during that time will, right?
Yeah.
Just like the New York Knicks.
Mhm.
So, like, his contract was massive
Yeah.
in retrospect.
So at a
That's
certain
the
point,
league.
the value goes beyond just what's he going to bring for the team. It's keeping him off the court of another team. It's
Of
keeping him
course.
off, keeping him away from your
And the
competition.
brand exposure that Michael Jordan brings to your
Of
team,
course,
right?
yeah.
Chicago Bulls loved that. He loved Chicago because he was there previous seasons.
Right.
So it worked out, and Chicago knew they were dealing with one of the greatest players of all time. His contract was so massive during the time, actually, that his salary alone was more than the entire payrolls of 19 out of the 29 NBA teams for that season.
Holy.
Yeah.
For the 97-98.
For the 97-98 season, yeah. So 19 teams had a lower payroll than
Combined,
Michael
yeah.
Jordan's contract.
And that's something you would
Correct.
never see in modern sport now.
Absolutely not.
No matter how good you are, it doesn't matter if you're Connor McDavid. You're not making more than an
Yeah.
entire team.
I don't,
Or
don't
does it
think
matter
the
if you're
sport
LeBron?
matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like, obviously things change, right? The contract, the year after he
Yeah.
signed
Things
the
kind of
contract.
settled in.
The year after, actually, he signed a contract 1999.
Yeah.
A max salary cap was like set where players were no longer able to earn more than what the salary cap was, or more than what the team had to spend, because teams would just start splurging, owners would start splurging on players. So that's why we see players today like LeBron James, Steph Curry, and stuff possibly not making as much money as they could potentially
Yeah.
if the rules were the same. But they're still making a lot of money nonetheless, right?
Right.
In comparison, Jordan's contract back then compared to, or adjusted according
Era
to
adjusted, yeah.
today's NBA, he would actually earn 66.6 million for the one season.
Yeah.
Which obviously in
Right.
today's NBA is like holy.
Yeah, with the league structure the way it is.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think that's why the league changed also, or implemented rules like that, because if there was no max salary cap rule, like everybody would just be splurging on huge players.
It
LeBron
would come
James.
down to who has the deepest pockets,
Exactly.
who's in the biggest market.
Yeah, exactly, and I think if one team has a very rich owner willing
Yeah.
to splurge,
Yeah.
and another team doesn't, you'd have a lot of individual players, a lot of good players, join the same team
Yeah.
and create more super teams, and that's a problem we're already seeing now with the way
Yeah.
the league is. We have a lot of, like in Golden State, you have 4 All-Stars, 5 All-Stars on one team,
Yeah.
but if there was no rule, I think it would be much worse, and that shows progress and what's it called?
It's a step in the right
It's
direction.
a step in the right direction, exactly.
Yeah.
So it shows league structure is coming along, is
Yeah.
getting better, whereas people tend to disagree in that regard. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think athletes catch a lot of flack.
Yeah.
You see people all the time. I think particular outside of the sport industry, you see a lot of outsiders criticizing, saying, "Oh, Michael Jordan earning $33 million. He must be overpaid. Because
And-
how could a guy earn
Yeah.
$33 million shooting balls into the program?" They
Exactly.
don't really
Playing
have
the
that
sport they
appreciation
love,
for it.
that's
Yeah.
not even a job. A lot
Yeah.
of people have a lot of arguments, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not hard work, but
Yeah.
they don't take into consideration.
Yeah.
how
I think
much
the
work
people who
goes into it.
have the appreciation for the game understand
Yeah.
the value that he's
Exactly.
bringing. And it's not as if $33 million, even back then, was an unheard of amount of money for a celebrity to earn. Certainly in sports it was, but if we look at show business, if we look over to Hollywood,
Yeah.
we see Jack Nicholson earned $60 million in 1 year for his part in Batman in 1989.
Yeah.
And we see Tom Hanks earning 70 in
Yeah.
1994 for his part in Forrest Gump. We see Bruce Willis here earning $100 million in 1999 for his
Yeah.
role in The Sixth Sense. These aren't even particularly. None of these guys had the same impact
Yeah.
on show business that Michael Jordan had on the
Yeah.
NBA. Is what I'm trying to say. None of them are so beyond their
Yeah,
competition
exactly.
like Michael Jordan was,
I'd
and
say-
yet they're earning an order of magnitude, a whole different ballpark of
Yeah.
money.
Exactly.
But you would never see the same sort of criticism come
Yeah.
out of them, in my opinion.
Exactly, and like people like to watch the movies. They don't really care about. I've never thought of how much money did this actor get paid to make this movie that I love watching, right? You watch it for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
And that's what you see from like the kind of hardcore sports fans.
Yeah.
They see like, okay, Michael Jordan is the best player of all time.
Yeah.
He earned this, right? This is it. But some people I find were sport during that time where it was like a boom, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
right? It was kind of booming at the time. A lot of people were like,
It wasn't
wow,
quite into the mainstream yet. Yeah.
And like not a lot. There was a lot of money involved, but not as much money as
Not
like,
on the same
possibly
scale,
today and
yeah.
stuff. A lot of criticism going into that, right? So
Mhm.
people adjust to change differently, right? Some people
Yeah.
agree with it, some people disagree with it. But yeah, I think you're bringing up a point earlier about like players in other sports, what they're making today.
Right.
In retrospect, you were talking about Ronaldo, Messi.
Yeah, so it was decades before any player
Yeah.
earned more than LeBron or more than Jordan
more
in a
than
single
Jordan,
year.
yeah.
And now that it is happening, now that the industry has caught up to the point that non-Jordan level players, or not just Michael Jordan, can earn that type of money, we see European soccer, where is where we saw athletes really start to break pace in front of Jordan the earliest. They don't have the same sort of league structure over there.
Yeah.
They don't have as much emphasis on competitive balance or league parity.
It is
And
also
so-
worldwide, right?
Of course, yeah,
Compared
it's-
to more
Yeah.
North American based, where we see the big four, the
It is a
NHL,
bigger market, of
NBA,
course, yeah.
NFL, and MLB, right? So it's a worldwide aspect.
And so I think those two things come together to show us the kind of salaries that we see here. Cristiano Ronaldo, the highest earning athlete, according to this website here, saying that he earned $58 million in his base salary alone. And he's not alone. Lionel Messi right there with him, 53 million. Andrew Luck here, 47 million. This is, in a way, par for the course for an elite athlete now.
And
We look back on Jordan's 33, and certainly at the time it looked outlandish, or perhaps
unique
definitely
at the time,
it was definitely unique at the time.
Yeah, and going off your point, where like players today who are not exactly have the same impact that Michael Jordan had on basketball at the time, who are still earning money like that. Maybe Ronaldo and Messi are not so much because they're generational talents, right?
Right.
But like players like Andrew Luck.
Right.
Andrew Luck is like a solid quarterback, right? One of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL today. But he's not like.
But he's not quite on that same level.
On that level, but he's still earning his money.
Right.
So different leagues have different league
and of
structure.
course, part of that is just changing times.
We could also view Michael Jordan as a pioneer.
Yeah.
In like huge contracts, like playing for your worth, or like getting paid for
Yeah.
your worth.
Standing up in a way to the big corporate entities and saying, no one else is earning anywhere close to this, but I'm worth it. I'm Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a point over here looking at the business side of things,
Right.
where because it all comes down to whether the owners were willing to pay or not. And let's see, I can find my article here.
Right.
Mark Cuban actually had a quote that I want to read out, and he said owners would be willing to remove salary limits only if players gave up guaranteed contracts. So meaning like players have contracts that are guaranteed money for a certain amount of years if they sign.
Yeah.
But like if owners were willing to pay anything, or there was no salary limit,
Yeah.
the contracts would be substantially smaller. Like Jordan's, 1 year.
They'd be
right?
structured very differently.
Yeah, because they're being paid more money.
Mhm.
So players
So-
now I find are getting bigger contracts, like James Harden, Steph Curry signed 5-year supermax deals,
Yeah.
but they're getting their money over a span, right? It's not just like 1 year.
Yeah.
You're getting this. You're getting it over the 5 years.
Yeah.
of
And so
course.
Mark Cuban's saying he's not opposed to paying players that big payday
Yeah.
for a year or two or whatever, but he wouldn't want it to be guaranteed income. He wouldn't want it to be a long-term deal.
Exactly.
And in my mind, I would think it would have to be sort of structured around performance bonuses, low base salary, and then if you play like you can, if you play like we know you will, you'll earn the money that you want.
Exactly. And it follows here on this article from Business Insider. It does state that it sounds unlikely that players would ever want to give up guaranteed
Of
contracts,
course,
which makes sense, right? Because they're getting their guaranteed
It'll
money.
be interesting to see how it all plays out in the future.
So it just goes to show both business side of things and players and teams and everything. Sport is a business.
Of course.
It is what it is, right? A lot of people watch it for the fandom of it, love to watch the sport for the love of the game.
Yeah.
But the sport has a whole different other side to it, right?
But at the end of the day,
Business
pro
side.
sport in particular, you're there to make money.
That's pretty much going to wrap it up.
I think that's all the time we have here
That's all
today.
the time